This week, on the summer premiere of Chicago Newsroom 2.0, Congressman and newly announced Chicago Mayoral candidate Mike Quigley is here to present his case to serve as the City of Big Shoulders' next chief executive.
Michael Stratmaunis joins the conversation to give viewers a sneak peek inside the Obama Presidential Center on the eve of its historic grand opening.
And Christy George and Dr. Harley Johnson are here to talk about the historic investment IBM is making in the future of the city's south side. I'm Dr. Suzette McKinney.
And I'm Glenn Eden. We put together an incredible hour of local news and information that matters most to Chicagoans.
And it all starts right now. From a parking meter deal many Chicagoans still consider one of the worst financial agreements in city history, to the never-ending stadium saga surrounding the Chicago Bears, to the future leadership of Chicago Public Schools, major decisions made today could shape the city for decades to come. First, one of the biggest stories in Chicago sports history may be entering its final act. After years of negotiations, competing proposals, and political brinkmanship, the Chicago Bears Board of Directors has voted to move forward with plans for a new stadium in Hammond, Indiana. While the exact site has yet to be finalized, the vote marks the strongest indication yet that the franchise could leave Illinois after more than a century. The announcement raises difficult questions about economic development, taxpayer subsidies, and what it means for Chicago to potentially lose one of its most recognizable institutions. Then, Chicago's controversial parking meter system is once again changing hands. A New York-based investment firm is seeking to acquire the lease rights to the city's parking meters, reigniting questions about whether Chicago should have found a way to regain control of one of its most valuable public assets. And finally, Chicago's first fully elected school board continues to take shape, with an astonishing 51 candidates filing to run for seats on the board. At the same time, CPS faces another difficult budget season marked by ongoing financial pressures, declining enrollment, and questions about how the district will pay for its priorities moving forward. Joining us today to break it all down are roundtable regulars Claude Robinson, president of Onyx Strategic Partners, and CAN TV's chief education correspondent and president of the Luminary Collective, Adrian Segura. Welcome back, friends.
Great to be back.
Awesome. Well, let's dive right in because we have a lot to talk about today. So let's start with the Bears. The Bears Board of Directors has now officially voted to advance the Hammond Stadium project. Is this effectively the end of Chicago's efforts to keep the team in Illinois, or do you believe there's still room for negotiation?
So it's everywhere in the news, actually national news as well. And my inkling is that this is a negotiation tool used by the Bears to try and move the needle towards where they want things to be as it relates to where the Bears will be playing in, is it 2033 or 34? So I think it's a negotiation tool.
Or perhaps a tactic.
Yeah.
So Claude's position is anywhere, everywhere, all at once. Adrian, what do you say?
It's not done till it's done. And I think, the reality is, I'd say similar to Claude. I think obviously they've got their lease here for the near future while this still continues to move forward. And I do think the way you described it as a saga definitely feels, for those of us who live here, who love the sport, it certainly feels like a saga that kind of like has no end in sight.
Sure. Well, speaking of no end, let me ask you this question, Adrian. If the Bears ultimately leave Illinois, who bears the greatest responsibility? Do you think it's the franchise, Springfield lawmakers, City of Chicago leaders, or the taxpayers who oppose public initiatives?
I think the franchise ultimately is the one making the decision, and ultimately they're the ones that have to own that decision that they're making. I believe that Chicago and our legislature has tried time and time again to engage them in good faith, and it kind of feels like the posts continue to move, and so really I do think it comes down to the franchise, more than taxpayers, more than the legislature, more than the city leadership.
Sure. Claude, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, so the negotiations have been going on for a while. I was down in Springfield most of May, and I know that the Bears lobbyists were down, and a lot of discussions were taking place, and they couldn't come to an agreement in the House. The Senate did push. Senator Cunningham was really working hard, and they were able to get a bill passed out of the Senate, and when it went to the House, they weren't able to agree on it. So the Bears, the public can't say conversations and negotiations haven't been happening. So the Bears could, I think, are in the driver's seat and can make concessions. And what's funny is I was having a conversation with some diehard Bears fans. They were cussing, I wasn't. And
You know we find that hard to believe.
and I was telling them, that it's not done yet. And then I said, but I go, so the money, now they made this the board makes this announcement about Hammond, and then everybody's up in arms that it already happened.
Sure.
And then I said to them, no, it hasn't happened. Look, there's no place that they agreed on yet. And but the blame for me would go on who's ultimately in power, because they can say this deal is good enough, and they can make send a message to taxpayers in the state of Illinois that we do care about more than just generating as much revenue that we can.
Well, Indiana reportedly offered a package worth up to $1 billion in incentives, while Illinois leaders actually refused to commit to similar taxpayer support. So do you think Illinois stood on principle with that decision, or did it lose a major economic asset by refusing to compete?
I mean, I'm curious to get Claude's perspective on this, given how much work you do at the state level. A part of me almost does feel like it's not a failure to compete, because they've been in ongoing discussions, right? And now, can they align on, can they align interests is the question, and at what point is it too late to align on those interests? And I'm not sure on that, so I'm curious actually to get your take on that, given.
Yeah. So there's a larger economic context that progressives in the state and here in the city are looking at, and affordability is real. I mean, I pumped gas today and was like, no cuss word, but I pumped gas today and was like, I'm getting robbed.
That's a fair point.
Right, and at the same time, the cost, and then to know that there's so many other federal subsidies that are being cut and things. People have to live. Like Jay-Z said, can I live? And people need to realize that, this is entertainment. It's, but how is that really impacting their quality of life? And so I'm not a Bears fan, I'm an Eagles fan. And the Eagles come to Chicago this year. Just if we want to be real about Chicagoans, it's sold out. It's a Monday night game, and I said I'm gonna get a suite and host it. And when they sent me how much the suite cost, it's $60,000 for 20 tickets.
Wow.
For one game.
Wow.
So what are we talking about from a money perspective? I'm a small business, so I could imagine what's happening with some of the other things. So money should not override morals.
Well, speaking of money, the Bears argued that a Hammond Stadium could strengthen connections between Northwest Indiana and the Chicago region. So should Chicagoans view this as a regional project that benefits the entire metropolitan area, or as a significant loss for the city or state?
I'm very curious to hear who they talk to.
Yeah.
And I can almost guarantee the answer is not many people.
That's right.
Right. Yeah, I would say I see it as some marketing spin to
Sure.
try and gaslight people.
Yeah.
Because Hammond, Indiana is okay, but come on now.
It's
Ain't
Chicago.
nobody going all the way up there. You know, it's people hard enough to come to Soldier Field.
Sure.
And there are large swaths of people can't even afford to go. So now you're going to say, now I'm driving all the way to Hammond to go to a game. It's not happening. And I think it is a loss for the city of Chicago and the Bears. What will we call their legacy if they leave?
Sure. Well, let's switch to our second hot button issue of the day, the city's parking meter deal. So we are now 17 years after Chicago originally leased its parking meters in a deal that still remains deeply unpopular. The asset is now being sold again. What does the fact that investors continue to profit from this deal say about the original agreement? Adrian?
I mean, it gets to the point Claude was just making about putting gas in a pump, right? It's a deal that I think Chicagoans loathe in many ways because of exactly that. Like it feels like costs continue to rise up, and when you have private equity, their bottom line is not to improve conditions for residents, it is to make money. And so I think the inevitable question is going to be how much more money can they make from Chicagoans, from visitors who come to the region. And so we'll see, but I do think, the question I would have for people who are structuring the deal is really thinking about what are the protections that need to be put in place to ensure that, at the end of the day, Chicagoans aren't nickel and dime further, especially in a time when there is a real affordability crisis that people are experiencing.
So, Claude, the question I have for you is with regards to the mayor's actions recently. Mayor Johnson explored the possibility of buying back the meters, but ultimately concluded that measure would be cost prohibitive. Do you think that was the right decision, or should the city have found a way to regain control?
So initially, I'm going to say yes, it was the right decision because I know that his office did look at other investors to come in, and which means they were doing their due diligence to what would be best for Chicago. And then once a couple of it was an international group, I think, that was going to invest in it, and they said they pulled out, and there was another group that pulled out, so he was left with the New York venture. And I think he made the right move on that one.
Well, we've all heard about this open letter that the alders have sent to the mayor expressing their concern. Do you think if city council were to eventually approve this transfer, what protections should they demand on behalf of Chicagoans from the new owner? Adrian, we'll start with you.
I think one is agreeing to fee structures being frozen so that, again, at the onset of a sale, Chicagoans don't find themselves paying more at the end of the day. I think two, figuring out, there are a lot of ways to improve the system, and I wonder as part of this transfer if there's an opportunity there to really do a little bit more listening for Chicago residents, specifically even looking at data, like where are people actually using the parking system more frequently, and is there something that we can learn there from people's experiences, from ability to pay, all these questions that I think the path that wasn't kind of like charted the initial time of sale, that I think there's a real opportunity here to can we right size this? Can we include some protections that really are centering the lived experiences of our residents? Would be, I think, a really strong starting point.
And I would say from a community perspective, so the company is in New York, but whatever, if they have a footprint here in Chicago, and it's beyond the parking meters, but whoever that is should create a community benefits agreement so that something comes out of them being here instead of them just pulling money out of the city, but what are they pouring into the city as well? And for me, it would be in communities that need more investment instead of just a focus on a magnificent mile and everything.
Or perhaps an investment in our educational system.
How about
Yes.
that?
We'll get to that in a minute. Finally, on this topic, and just more broadly, what lessons do you think policymakers should learn from the parking meter deal as they consider future public-private partnerships?
So I would advise them to go back and learn from history. Why the hell did we do it in the first place?
Yeah.
We had a vaunted mayor that people held in such high regard. Why this deal? And to really figure out why it happened, learn from that, and then to something Adrian said, reach out to community and find out ways that they see this benefiting them.
Sure. Well, Chief Education Correspondent over here, I am going to flip to this third issue that we are going to talk about today, and that is the issue of the elected school board. We have 51 candidates who have already filed to run for Chicago's first fully elected school board. Adrian, do you think it's a sign of healthy civic engagement, or does it suggest voters may struggle to make informed choices in crowded races?
I actually think having a good amount of candidates is not a bad thing for voters. I think gives you options. There's two things in that point that I want to raise up. I think one, when we had less seats available when we were transitioning to a hybrid school board, there were 10 elected school board seats, and we had 47 candidates file. Now we have 21 seats up for election and only 51 candidates to file. So think about the growth trajectory there.
Sure.
Doesn't align. So I think to me, if anything, it signals either A, people have seen full display a little bit of the dysfunction of having an elected body this large trying to navigate policy. I think two, there is no prerequisite to run for board aside from getting signatures. So I think there's also that aspect of it. Like there's a huge learning curve. It's a $10 billion entity. Right. And many of our current sitting board members, and I'm imagining many candidates, haven't managed a budget or seen the governance of a budget that large. Ever. And so I think there are real challenges, and most voters, at least in my early kind of conversations, aren't even aware that we're transitioning to a fully elected school board. Right. And so I think there's a host of challenges with the set of elections, but those challenges also pose real opportunities for Chicago's education and civic leaders to really come together and think about how do we make sure that voters are informed and aware of who's running on the ballot, what do they stand for, and a little bit more kind of like structures in place to ensure that the board is clear on what their role is. I don't think many board members who are running actually know what the role of the Board of Education is. Yeah.
So Claude, you've been very vocal in the past about being a CPS parent. So as candidates campaign, CPS continues to face significant financial challenges. So from your perspective, what should voters be looking for when they are evaluating school board candidates and their approaches to budgeting and fiscal oversight?
Sure. So I read an article that said that some of the candidates aren't like CPS parents, and there was some critique about what could they do if they don't have experience there. But I think it's a good thing, to Adrian's point, is there should be fiscal responsibility, some understanding of budgets and how they work. Policies should be prerequisites. And for me, I'm glad that there are so many, and then that people have a choice. But there has to be a way to really get to know the values that the candidates are bringing. And for me, as a parent, one value that should override everything is their body of work and their commitment to young people's education, and not just the testing and doing well, but a full experience in the school where children are able to see a path of a wholesome life.
Let me just hone in for a quick second on your point about fiscal oversight and experience with fiscal oversight. Do you think the next school board should focus primarily on finding new revenue sources, or should they be prepared to make difficult spending decisions?
They're going to have to do both.
Okay.
And but there are so many opportunities for new revenue, and I do know it's both private and public, and whoever is responsible for that, the board should be a part of helping create a better image of CPS than that's out there now.
So Adrian, I am going to give you the last question.
Hold on. No, I'm just playing.
And that is, you know, as we look ahead to January of 2027, when the fully elected school board takes office, what do you think is the single biggest challenge awaiting its members?
I mean, Claude hit on a couple of them. I do think that the fiscal projections are going to be tough. You hit a couple pieces here around enrollment patterns, really showing, and the way we get funded is through enrollment. That being said, my heart goes to, like, they need to do a better job at listening to their constituencies. I think that's a really important piece, and really thinking about the student experience that we want to create for all students. And then you can actually start talking about, now, how do we finance that experience? What do we currently have, and how do we have to structure ourselves? Because if you have that as a guidepost, then it informs your legislative agenda, it informs your budgeting processes, and it actually allows you to, frankly, govern.
Great. Gentlemen, thank you both for being here today. It's always wonderful to have you join us on the round table.
Yes.
On the other side of the break, Glenn sits down with Congressman and Chicago Mayor hopeful Mike Quigley. It's a conversation you won't want to miss. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm financial educator Tamara Durbin. On the next episode of In the Money, we'll talk about how to stay in the money despite the rising cost of living. And Ben Juergens is back with a fresh installment of Money Matters. Join the conversation Wednesday, June 17th at 7 p.m. exclusively on CAN-TV Cable Channel 19, or stream live on cantv.org, on the CAN-TV Plus app, or on the CAN-TV YouTube channel.
They say television is about sitting back. We say it's about stepping up. Your block has stories worth telling. Your neighbors have voices worth hearing. Chicago has a heartbeat worth sharing. Stop watching their world. Start showing yours. It's time to tune in and be seen. CAN TV, always here, always yours. Experience the power of community television.
Chicago's next mayoral race is officially beginning to take shape, and one of the city's most recognizable political figures has now formally entered the contest. Congressman Mike Quigley, who has represented Chicago and its surrounding communities in Congress for more than a decade, has announced his candidacy for mayor of Chicago, positioning himself as an experienced, reform-minded leader at a moment of enormous challenges and high stakes for the city. From public safety and economic development to transit, housing, fiscal stability, and restoring public confidence in government, the next mayor will inherit a city facing a number of complex and deeply consequential issues. Quigley says his years in Congress, along with his earlier service as a Cook County Commissioner, known for pushing transparency and accountability reforms, have prepared him for this moment. Joining us now to discuss why he's entering the race, the vision he has for Chicago's future, and why he believes he's the right person to lead the city at this pivotal time is Congressman and Chicago Mayoral candidate Mike Quigley. Congressman, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
So happy to be here with you, and so happy to have you. So, getting right into it, Congressman, you're entering a race at a time when many Chicagoans express frustration, not only with City Hall, but with the overall direction of the city. What do you believe is the single biggest leadership shortfall of the current administration, and how would your approach fundamentally differ?
You know, I don't think it's just the current administration. I think we've had a lack of leadership willing to make really tough choices. And as a result, those issues get tougher and tougher, right? We have more pension debt than 44 states. 40% of all our revenues coming in right now go toward debt and pensions. So when I talk to any number of groups, I have to tell them, yeah, we need more shelter beds, right? We need more schools. We need more affordable housing. But all that's getting crowded out because we're not taking on those tough fiscal challenges. At the same time, it doesn't allow us to get to what should be the most important issue in this race, and that's affordability. And frankly, affordability begins with housing. From the early 50s, the city's down 1 million people in population, and it's simply too difficult to get that housing. When I got out of college, the first time home ownership started at about age 28. Now it's 40, and I think it's even tougher in Chicago. So look, we've got a lot of tough choices to make, but I think working with everyone across the city of Chicago, we can do the right thing with a bright future.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to get back to that as well to follow up. But I want to jump into, you've built much of your political reputation around transparency, accountability, and government reform, dating back to your time on the Cook County Board. Yet critics often argue that Chicago's political future and culture resists real reform regardless who is mayor. What specifically would you do in your first year to convince skeptical voters that your administration would truly operate differently?
Voters have a right to be skeptical. In our lifetime, 38 alders have been indicted. The real cost of that corruption isn't just the money, it's the loss of the public's trust. We're going to have real tough choices to make. They, the public, have a right to know we're doing it because it's the right thing, not because someone's pockets are getting lined. It begins with transparency. When I got to Congress, I formed the Transparency Caucus and passed legislation toward that end. The city needs to do the same thing. We need to strengthen our ethics ordinances, and we need to bring on the Inspector General. As pain as that can be to have the Inspector Generals everywhere, I think it's important to have them have complete access to what's taking place. Because again, there's a tremendous amount at stake.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I want to get back to one question to follow up on in terms of collaboration, particularly with key stakeholders. You know, Chicago faces major fiscal pressures, including pension obligations, transit funding uncertainty, and slowing commercial real estate revenues downtown. What hard decisions do you believe the next mayor must be willing to make that previous administrations frankly have avoided?
Yeah, we've got to get better our relationships. First of all, in Washington, D.C., you've got to be able to work with both parties there. I'm an appropriator now, and I know how to drive resources back. I was able to get $40 million for Union Station and millions more for projects all across the city, particularly housing and transit. But we've got to get better at that. It shouldn't cost $1 billion a mile to extend the Red Line. It shouldn't take a year to get a building permit. It shouldn't cost more to build an affordable housing unit than a market raced one. So we just have to govern better. We have to make tough choices there. We have to create a culture that says we're not going to solve all our problems by adding taxes. We're going to have to grow our way out of it. We can do that. Again, the city's population is down 1 million since the early 1950s. We can get past that, we can grow, and we can be successful. But some of that is getting our friends and allies to understand that change is going to be critical here.
Absolutely. So one of the defining political tensions in Chicago right now is the relationship between progressive activists, organized labor, business leaders, and moderate voters, groups that increasingly seem at odds with each other. And do you believe that the city has become too ideologically polarized to govern effectively? And if so, how would you bridge those divides?
The same way we tried to do it nationally. This is a country that's polarized. Chicago is not just polarized, it's divided into so many other segments. It's the most segregated city in the country.
Unfortunately.
We're still overcoming all those problems, from restrictions and redlining and building expressways to block neighborhoods. We still have to overcome those barriers, and we have to stop thinking of ourselves as North Side, West Siders, South Siders. A wise man I served with before he passed, John Lewis reminded us, we may have come over here in different ships, but we're in the same boat now. So many of our issues are the same, and we need to understand that mutual understanding and ability to work together to overcome those issues is going to be critical. So I get somehow those differences transmit, but we have to understand that unified process is only going to make us stronger. I guess, in a word, it's empathy, trying to see the world through the other person's eyes. Why are they thinking like that? And what is more important, how those ties can be tied toward, again, the issue I talked about, which is going to be how can we build a heck of a lot more housing for everybody in Chicago. It's going to make it more affordable and safer.
Well, you know, some critics may question whether someone who has spent years in Washington can fully reconnect with the block by block realities of governing Chicago. Why is this the right moment for you to leave Congress and return to city leadership politics? And how do you respond to voters who may see this as a late career political pivot?
Yeah, you know, I think it's more important that it's late career doing this, because I don't have my sights set on anything else. I think there's a problem when there's an elected official who wants to think, what's the next rung up? What's the next rung up? And I think, unfortunately, it leads them to pull back and maybe not make those tough choices, because it's going to make, it's going to offend some. And at this point in time, the next mayor has to say, this is my last job. You know, we're going to put this city in the right trajectory, working together. So I think it's just the opposite. And I think that wealth of experience, 10 years at the county board where I led the reform movement and talked about how to make local government more efficient, is going to be very helpful. My almost 10 years on the Intel committee, giving you a worldly perspective of what keeps us safe. And of course, as an appropriator, knowing how to work with DC to draw extraordinary amounts of resources here, because that's going to be necessary.
Yeah.
None of these problems are going to be solved unless we have a really good working relationship with our friends in Springfield and DC.
Last quick rapid fire question. We have probably a minute left. You know, if history repeats itself, there's probably going to be a gazillion candidates.
Yeah.
How does Mike Quigley rise above the fray? What's the message to strike our voters and Chicagoans that will really resonate well? And
this is the greatest city in the world. It has all the assets it could possibly need. We can overcome any of our shortcomings if we recognize those assets are there, but we're going to have to make tough choices. I've been in crowded races before with double-figure candidates and won by 5 points, get outspent in many of those campaigns. I think it's the fact that we have always got things done, accomplished things, worked well with others to move our city together forward.
And on that note, Congressman, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
We'd love to have you come back as the campaign season continues to heat up. And
anytime.
So best of wishes, and thank you for all you're doing for us, particularly in Washington, D.C., and continue to do for Chicago.
Glad to be here.
On the other side of the break, Suzette is joined by Michael Stratmaunis to talk about one of the biggest events of the year, the opening of the Obama Presidential Center. Stay with us.
For more than 40 years, CAN TV has been Chicago's voice, your voice. We've shared your stories, amplified your concerns, and celebrated your triumphs. Now we want to hear from you. What programs matter most? What issues should we cover? How can we better serve your community? Visit cantv.org/feedback today. CAN TV. Experience the power of community television.
They say television is about sitting back. We say it's about stepping up. Your block has stories worth telling. Your neighbors have voices worth hearing. Chicago has a heartbeat worth sharing. Stop watching their world. Start showing yours. It's time to tune in and be seen. CAN TV. Always here. Always yours. Experience the power of community television.
As Juneteenth approaches, a transformational moment in Chicago's civic and cultural history is set to unfold. After years of anticipation, planning, and community engagement, the grand opening of the Obama Presidential Center promises to be far more than the unveiling of a presidential library. It is being described as a living, breathing campus dedicated to leadership, democracy, service, and the power of ordinary people to create extraordinary change. Joining us now to discuss what this historic opening means for Chicago, for the nation, and for future generations is Michael Stratmaunis. As Chief Corporate Affairs Officer for the Obama Foundation, Stratmaunis has played a key leadership role in helping shape the vision, partnerships, and community impacts surrounding the center. Michael, welcome to Chicago Newsroom 2.0.
Thank you. Thank you. I finally made it.
I'm here.
I'm here. Let's do this.
And it's great to have you. So I feel like I already know the answer to this question, but let me just start by saying that the opening of the Obama Presidential Center on Juneteenth carries enormous symbolism. Why was it important for the Obama Foundation to tie this historic opening to a day that commemorates freedom, resilience, and Black progress in America?
Well, the first thing we know about Juneteenth is it's going to be a beautiful day.
It's going to be a beautiful day.
And we have to be in summertime shy if we're going to open the Obama Presidential Center and welcome everyone to the lakefront. The second thing I'd say, and this is really reflected in so many things about the Presidential Center, but one of the most visible parts of it are the letters, the words etched on the top of the museum tower.
Yes.
Now, they come from President Obama's speech at Selma commemorating the 50th anniversary of the crossing of the Edmund Pettus Bridge. That was a moment that was defining, and it showed that ordinary people can do extraordinary things. It showed that this country is all about progress, and Juneteenth means that as well. And so I think it is very appropriate. And then the last thing I'd say is, where my people come from, Juneteenth was a family celebration.
Yes.
And this is all about having a family celebration.
Amen to that. Well, many people hear the words Presidential Center and immediately think of a traditional museum archive. How is the Obama Presidential Center designed to be something different, something more active and community-centered?
So, well, my kids will tell you, and my wife will tell you that when I started working at the Obama Foundation, all of a sudden, we would end up at a presidential library. Okay. I was really interested in seeing these things. So, trying to take my daughters just trying to go to summer camp. We're at Gerald Ford's Presidential Library on the way. And what we found with these traditional presidential libraries is so much of them were about the past.
Yes.
And about the president's past and his relationship to their past. But President Obama was really young when he left office.
That's right.
And he wasn't prepared to create a mausoleum. And so we needed to create something that was, as you said, living, breathing. It was about the future. The other thing is that most of these libraries have a vault within it that's there to hold the papers. But President Obama was the first digital president. I worked at the White House. So much of what we did was native digital, emails, et cetera. And so rather than use that space for a vault, we decided we would digitize our papers so that anybody could see them. And that gave us the chance to open up the space for other uses. Just one example of what people are going to experience.
Sure.
The space that was originally going to be the vault, it is the newest branch of the Chicago Public Library.
I saw it.
Yeah.
How exciting
exactly.
is that?
So it's got a maker studio and et cetera. So that's a center. That's something that's living and breathing, a campus that we think creates a new model for the presidential museums.
And it also puts you in the frame of mind that you are building and preparing for the future.
Yes.
That's wonderful. So the center was obviously built on Chicago's south side in Jackson Park, not in Washington, D.C. What message would you say that sends about President Obama's connection to Chicago and about the role that cities and neighborhoods play in shaping national leadership?
Well, I remember when there was this this competition to see what community wanted to host the presidential center.
Yes.
And a bunch of cities and a bunch of communities applied. I voted for Hawaii, but my vote didn't count much,
Okay.
seeing as my name's not Obama.
Right.
It was always going to be in Chicago, and it was always supposed to be in Chicago. And I think going back to the last question, each one of these presidential libraries, these presidential centers, they really reflect the president and the presidency. It's so unique, right? Reagan's is literally like on a hill in a vista overlooking the California mountains. John Kennedy's is on the water
In Boston.
right?
Yes.
Barack Obama is somebody who got his opportunity to lead in a city, in a tough, raucous, messy city with people, different opinions, with arguing, but a city that gets things done. A city that really has to set a standard for what can happen in politics and also, frankly, in black politics.
That's right.
And so I think, the Obama Center really represents what can happen when, and I'm going to use a word that I love these days, it's called pluralism. And pluralism is this choice where you can take all these different diverse opinions and diverse perspectives and decide that you're going to try to create something common out of it. That's what living in the city is like. I don't care what neighborhood you're in. I don't care what team you root for. You have people from all different walks of life. Even a place like the southside Chicago that, is traditionally kind of very significantly black. I don't know about your family, but my family, my black side of the family, they disagree. And we have people with different backgrounds. And so that's what this is supposed to represent.
And it's true to the fabric of Chicago.
Yeah.
The relationship building, the importance of relationships, and the importance of forging the road ahead for the younger people that are going to come behind us. I love that. So there's also been significant conversation about the economic and community impacts of the project because, again, it sits right in the middle of a community. So what are some of the tangible ways that local residents, businesses, workers, and even young people are already benefiting from the center, and what long-term impact do you hope the center will have on the South Side?
Well, I love that you talked about young people. I was telling my team, the folks I was working with, about what story we should be thinking about. And I said, Barack Obama is now Obi-Wan Kenobi. His job is to create new Jedis.
Yes.
And that's really what we want to do. We want to have this center be a place where young people can come and get the opportunity to lead. And we've already done it. We actually have trained literally thousands of young people around the world, all across Chicago, north side, southwest, suburbs. We have young people who have come in and found their path to leadership, and that was before we had a center.
Sure.
And so some of the tangible ways this is going to impact people is one, I do think that we have the ideas and the leadership to solve the problems of our time somewhere locked inside the minds of a young person in the city, and we want them to come to the presidential center and realize that they have a role to play.
Absolutely.
That we see them and that we can train them. I also would say that from the very first moment, and I know you know about this because you've done the same work, we were very intentional in making sure that we brought on contractors, small businesses, diverse business owners, people who had gotten locked out of opportunities and gave them the chance to be a part of this project. They're hiring locally. I met someone who has a solar business with us, and because he had that business, he's gotten business doing solar and projects all across the city. And the last thing I'd say is that tourism is a powerful stimulative economic opportunity. Tourists come, you don't got to educate them. you don't have to do anything else with them. They come, they spend their money, and they want to have an experience. And so we think that bringing tourists to our city is a very powerful opportunity for our businesses and for our community.
Absolutely. You know, we never have enough time for these conversations. I could sit here and talk with you all day.
You know I love to talk.
About the Presidential Center. I will say, though, as we close, I had the opportunity to get an advanced viewing of the Presidential Center. And, you know, in a time where our country remains so divided politically, socially, it was so refreshing to be able to walk into the center and forget about the challenges that we're experiencing today and relive so many of the moments from his 2 terms as president. So, Michael, on behalf of the Chicago Newsroom 2.0 audience, thank you so much for coming in to speak with us today.
You are so welcome.
We'd love to have you back at some point.
We will come back after everybody gets a chance to check out the live stream of our opening.
Yes.
On June 18th.
Fantastic. On the other side of the break, Christy George and Dr. Harley Johnson joined the newsroom to discuss a major investment at the Illinois Quantum and Microelectronics Park, expected to bring 750 full-time jobs to Chicago's South Side. Stay with us.
Got something to say about Chicago? Now's your chance to be heard. Chicago Newsroom 2.0 is launching Opinion, a new segment where everyday Chicagoans take the mic. Whether it's a neighborhood issue that's been ignored, a citywide concern that needs attention, or a fresh idea that could change our city, we want to hear from you. Submit your commentary at cantv.org/opinion. If selected, we'll invite you on air to share your perspective with all of Chicago. Experience the power of community television.
Hi, I'm financial educator Tamara Durbin. On the next episode of In the Money, we'll talk about how to stay in the money despite the rising cost of living. And Ben Juergens is back with a fresh installment of Money Matters. Join the conversation Wednesday, June 17th at 7 p.m. exclusively on CAN-TV Cable Channel 19 or stream live on cantv.org, on the CAN-TV Plus app, or on the CAN-TV YouTube channel.
Chicago is positioning itself at the forefront of one of the fastest growing sectors in the global economy: quantum computing, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and advanced microelectronics. A major part of that vision is now taking shape on the city's south side through the Illinois Quantum and Microelectronics Park, or IQMP, where IBM is launching its new Future Now Chicago Delivery Center. The initiative is expected to create 750 new jobs in high-growth technology fields while also building new pathway for Illinois residents to access careers in the innovation economy. But beyond the headlines and billion-dollar projections, leaders say this effort is about something even bigger: creating equitable access to opportunity, investing in workforce development, and ensuring that local communities are a part of the future being built right here in Chicago. Joining us now to talk about the vision, the partnerships, and what this could mean for the future of Illinois' economy are Christy George, President and CEO of the Illinois Economic Development Corporation, and Dr. Harley Johnson, CEO of the Illinois Quantum and Microelectronics Park. Christy, Dr. Johnson, thank you for joining the Chicago Newsroom 2.0. Happy to have you here with us.
Thank you for having us.
We're going to get straight into it.
All right.
And so I want to look at you for this one, Christy. IBM's Future Now Chicago initiative is expected to create 750 jobs in fields like AI, cybersecurity, data science, and quantum technology. What does it say about Illinois and Chicago specifically that IBM chose the IQMP as the home for this investment?
Thank you for the question. It means a lot, to put it really simply. IBM is a legacy company to Illinois. They have a significant footprint in the state, both in Chicago and in Springfield and other parts of the state. But what it truly means is that they are doubling down on Chicago. They believe in our workforce. They believe in our abilities. They believe in a true partnership with Illinois and with Chicago. What we saw here is IBM thought through kind of all of the variety of different partnerships that they have and all of the assets and the strength that they have. I think they have a very strong partnership with the University of Illinois. I think they also have very strong partnerships with the University of Chicago. And certainly they had already made an investment in partnership with the Illinois Quantum and Microelectronics Park through its partnership to develop the National Quantum Algorithm Center and to locate their Quantum System 2 here in Chicago in partnership with IQMP. But beyond that, they have such core strengths and we have such key assets here. We have not only our universities, but we also have an incredible community college system. We have the third largest community college system in the nation. And in particular, City Colleges of Chicago has so many different programs and they have such incredible assets and incredible teachers and partnerships and to really work within the communities to build the workforce of the future. And so what they did here is they entered into this partnership to really take on and think through how can we develop and challenge the corporate community to address workforce in a different way. This is a different type of model. They entered into this partnership with City Colleges of Chicago to develop these Future Now Center at the IQMP. And the whole goal of that Future Now Center, it's really twofold. The first part is how can they create a center that would allow them to partner with industry to address real world challenges, to develop real world solutions, and to train talent. And that's really the second facet of it, which is workforce development. How can they build a talent engine within the IQMP and focus it on cyber, AI, risk mitigation, data science, all of these different facets, and they're doing that in partnership with the City of Chicago, City Colleges of Chicago, and it's such a fantastic partnership. We're so proud of it, and they've already started to hire folks. So it's really incredible, but it's a true testament to how when government comes together with industry, supported by higher education, supported by our community college system, and even further supported by philanthropy. It's a true incredible partnership that's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dr. Johnson, the IQMP has been described as a first of its kind campus for quantum technology and microelectronics innovations. For viewers hearing about quantum computing for the first time that are not rocket scientists, help us understand why this industry matters and why there's such urgency around building this ecosystem now. And it is very comprehensive, as Christy just discussed.
Right. So IQMP is a campus that, as you said, is designed to promote scale-up of quantum. There are different kinds of quantum technologies, but we're focused primarily on quantum computing. Quantum computing is a form of computing that we think will transform the future of the way that we use computers to solve big problems. And that means solving the kinds of problems that companies and small businesses, individuals across the city and across the region, across the country, the needs they have that can be addressed by computers. And so we think about things like problems currently that are out of range for existing computers, drug discovery, other healthcare challenges, problems related to environmental sustainability, the kind of things that are going to impact everyday people, but our existing computers are not equipped to handle those. So there's urgency because of the nature of the problems that we want to solve, but I think there's also urgency because of the opportunity. This is an opportunity that is unique to Chicago just because of the nature of the workforce here, the training programs that Christy mentioned. And I think we have an opportunity to seize on that and ensure that the citizens of Chicago and the region are sort of first to the party and can access those kinds of jobs and those careers as soon as possible.
Wow, yeah, absolutely. So, and to dovetail off of that, one of the most striking aspects of the project is the focus on workforce development and apprenticeships. How intentional was the decision to ensure that these opportunities are not only accessible to traditional four-year degree holders, engineers, if you will, but also to community college students and local residents at large?
Very intentional. I think this is part of the strategy, part of the plan all along. We think that and the studies show that within the next 10, 20, 30 years, there are going to be tens of thousands of jobs created by this industry. Not all of them are going to be at IQMP. Many of them will be spread around in companies that are using these kinds of computing technologies. and the other thing that the studies show is that these jobs are not all going to be set aside for people with advanced degrees. Most of the jobs, in fact, will be for bachelor's degree or associate's degree holders.
That's good.
And so the thinking has always been very intentional around focusing on putting those programs in place, because right now we don't have the workforce trained in those areas.
For sure.
And a lot of the people who are going to hold those jobs in 10, 20 years, they're in middle school now. Right? So we're thinking about K through 12 education as well as associate's degree holders. And certainly the IBM Future Now program is focusing on apprenticeship level jobs, associate's degree holders primarily. But it's really the whole spectrum, and that's been very intentional in thinking about making these jobs accessible.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think if I can just add to that, specifically to the 750 jobs, 180 of them are going to come out of this apprenticeship program. So it's very, very, as Dr. Johnson was sharing, very intentional, and it's built into the hiring model for the Future Now Center, which is incredible.
So on that note, as our final question, as we're looking ahead to like 5 to 10 years, what do you hope people will say about the impact that the Illinois Quantum and Microelectronics Park and the Future Now Chicago initiative had on Chicago's economy, workforce, national reputation as a technology hub, and it's particularly an advanced technology hub?
Right. I'm so excited about what the next 5 to 10 years hold. I think about all the other great things happening on the South Side right now. We hope that IQMP can play a role in attracting attention, attracting prosperity, and attracting opportunity to that part of to that part of our community. This can be a place that is internationally recognized for being a center of the high-tech world.
Absolutely.
And it can also be an example of how we spread opportunity to the rest of the community.
Absolutely.
And what I'd like to see is even more Future Now delivery centers that are all throughout the state, all throughout the nation. I think one of the key differences is that this is a first of its kind model in developing this partnership. And the kind of true note of success isn't just the jobs that are being hired or the investment being made, but it's where will this model be replicated? And is this a new model of economic development that we can see scale in all different parts of the country? And that's what we want to see.
Well, it's great to have Chicago and Illinois be the North Star to this path forward to advanced technology. Well, thank you all for being here. We'll have to have you back soon. Dr. Suzette?
We want to hear from you, Chicago. Got an opinion on a topic you've been wanting to get off your chest? CAN TV is the place to do it.
Share your opinion with us in 250 words or less. If your submission is selected, we'll invite you to join us on the air to present your perspective to the entire city.
Join me and Glenn next week for an all-new edition of the Newsroom featuring conversations with NAACP President and CEO Derek Johnson, Share Our Spare's new Executive Director Umi Grigsby, and Build Inc.'s new CEO Bradley Johnson.
As always, thank you, Chicago, for making time for Chicago Newsroom 2.0 and CAN TV in your busy day.
Until we see you again, be well and well informed.